Greetings, comrades. I am Admiral Andre, and I do apologize for disappearing yesterday. Well, you know, it's one of those cases where unfortunately other things get in the way of gaming. I don't want to say a real life because that implies that gaming is not part of real life. I hate when people do that because when you're at university or at school, they'll tell you, oh, just wait for the real world. This is also part of the real world and part of real people's experiences. Anyway, that's a pet peeve of mine. I shall not bore you with that. So yes, comrades, we are back here. It's just after sunset. The crickets are singing here in the fields around our space center. And now it is time to continue with our adventure. So, first things first, let's go back to our master plan, just for reference again. And also, this time I have some tea again, comrades, so let me have some of that while I transport you to the master plan in the administration building. I assume that would be in the admin building. Anyway. Righto, comrades, here we are again. Now, last time, of course, I need not remind you, we kind of went for this joint manned launch or Kerbal launch, but it didn't quite work out. I'm not sure if we'll pick up there again today. I want to do a satellite launch, and I just want to see. We might try and build a 2-crew spacecraft as well. That could be a good thing to do. Otherwise, perhaps it's time to move on to a lunar orbiter program. That can also work. I don't think we'll do the Pegasus satellite yet. Right, so the 2-crew spacecraft has to be, it has to have a capability of 7 to 13 days. So I'll just keep that in mind, but of course we won't do that at the beginning. Right, let's get back. Alright, comrades, now in your absence, I have gone ahead and I played around earlier today with building us a new launch vehicle, because so far all of our launch vehicles have been, or almost all, there was one exception, were derived from the Spire launch vehicle. Actually, instead of just talking about it, I can go into the VAB and of course just go to our sub-assemblies. Now, all of these were Spires. There was the Arrow, which was kind of an exception because it's more of a makeshift launch vehicle and not necessarily very nice with so many tank segments, but anyway. Then, what was this? The Javelin, that was our very first experience. Just want to say new here. And then the rest were all Spire, and even the last one that we did with the Gladius capsule, which was still a Spire, but with an added solid fuel booster stage, sort of a makeshift thing. Anyway, now unfortunately I don't have that many parts, especially engine parts. You can see we still only have 4 liquid fueled engines available. We do have more tanks now, and of course the fuel duct, which is very important. But I just played around because I can tell you, I think probably my favorite rocket is the Atlas rocket. And of course the family of Atlas boosters, which still continues to this day. But if I just open it up, anyway, I was just playing around. There was a Gladius 7 test. Where was the other test craft? I just called it a test craft because obviously it's not official yet. Now, of course, one of the major problems with creating a craft that takes inspiration from the Atlas is the 1.5-stage configuration. Getting that thing to cleanly separate is always a challenge. And of course, I am still very limited in my parts here. So I just have to do what I can. And also I should make it clear again, the craft that we'll be building in this series is not aimed to be a recreation of real-world things as I did before with the Saturn V and the shuttle and all of that. That was more intense of a kind of attempt at recreation. That's what I said before. We'll probably do that in a live stream setting in the future, just because then I can interact with people as I'm building it, and I think that's a nice idea. But for this career, we're not going that strict for recreations. So anyway, In this case, yes, the thing is also with the Atlas kind of thing, just getting it to look like the real thing is a challenge already. But anyway, so this is an early attempt, let's put it like that. However, I like this because it can give us a 2.5 ton payload interplanetary transfer. So basically it can accelerate a 2.5 ton payload to an interplanetary transfer. In other words, a Kerbal escape. So that's a very good thing, and I think this will set us up for a while in the future, because again, as I said before, I do like making use of these kind of families where we can see the heritage of the boosters that we've been using. So it's not just each time splashed together, so to speak, and just thrown together for a particular mission and that's that. No, it has to be more meaningful than that, with a history. But anyway, so yes, I guess in this case the inspiration was more of the Atlas Agena. So for theoretical purposes, this is the Agena stage here, and then that was just the payload to get up to 2.5 tons. But anyway, I also did one for a Gladius. This was a Gladius 7 test, which is not an official thing because we never got to Gladius 7, so it's just an unofficial test. But it works actually, and this one takes the entire upper stage to orbit in one go without having to ignite the Terrier engine. Of course I have to ditch the lower engines, but it's exactly like the Atlas used to do. Of course we have much more of an orbital stage than the Mercury craft, which only had a small retro pack, but we don't have the parts for that yet. So anyway, that's that. I think I'll save this into our sub-assemblies. This was the latest one that I worked with, so I'll do this for now I have to think. Actually, yes, I think what I'll do is I'll throw it on here and just call this. Now obviously here I have to have a new name, so I still have my original list here, and I'm just going to see if there's anything here. This is obviously not a mission name, this is just the booster name. So we used Spire last time. I think this time we'll use Paragon. It just sounds nice, so we'll be calling this the Paragon rocket family. So this is Paragon first stage. Save, and then what I want to do is I want to go back to the test vehicle, open that, and just replace the lower stage, because I did try and tweak the separation of the engines a little bit there. So I think it works a little bit smoother. It's still going to be a bit of a rough separation there, but there's only so much I can do. Paragon first stage, and it just attaches there. And of course, depending on the payload, you mess around with the fairings, because they are not meant really for deployment. The craft just separates right out of them. Right, that'll do. So I will call this whole thing, let's say from up there, just go back to sub-assemblies, Paragon 1A. It's almost like the Atlas A, which was just a test thing. Anyway, I'll save that. So there we now have the Paragon rocket family. And now, tea, please. My voice. Right, so the thing yesterday was also, it was kind of like a work breakfast thing. Oh, I was exhausted after that, but anyway, lots and lots of talking and things about the upcoming lectures this week, and I'm still stressed out about the lectures that I have to do on Friday. But anyway, it's part of experience gaining. So yes, now contracts. We have about $500 million bucks in our account now, so the space program is doing very well here. They don't offer us more contracts because we need to finish some first. Now that's a minimus one. No, we're not going to do that yet. Let's start with a Kerbal satellite. We have done this, of course, originally with the Proximo satellites. Now I'm wondering, should this still be a Proximo one? Probably, in a way. Although, where do they want this? Periaps, this is a very elongated orbit here. Periaps is 151, but the apoaps is 1.2 million meters. I guess in that sense it can still count as a Proximo. I'm just thinking now we need to sort out our naming convention here, because a Proximo is for low Kerbal orbit, literally proximity, so it's close by. Now what could be then something that goes to a high Kerbal orbit? I just want to see. Let's make it interesting. Right, comrades, we'll call this an Echo satellite. I think so. Echo will be slightly more advanced than the Proximo, and because this one does go into high Kerbal orbit, at least into that zone of space, this will be Echo 1, and experimental engineering is paying us to do this, so it's our first commercial launch. Build a new unmanned probe, reach and maintain. So there's no other parts that they want for this. We can actually use a Spire rocket for this, but I want to test out our new launch vehicle. Now this is going to be such a light craft. Let's just go with new, but anyway, just take that off. Obviously it's going to be an Octo. And let's just have a look. We do need obviously a communication equipment on there, and do we need? I think we do need some batteries. Now I don't have the Oscar fuel tanks yet, so we will have to attach this to something bigger. 4 times. Right, that'll work. This is a 6 times symmetry on an 8 times symmetry probe core, which is kind of odd a little bit, but it's the only way to really make this fit nicely. As you can see, the profile of the panels. So here a hex would have been slightly better, but I suppose in a way this is a micro satellite launch. It's only 135 kilos, so definitely a micro sat. Now in terms of the battery, we can add a pack like this. Now I usually want to make things look quite nice for obvious reasons, just because we want to take a bit of pride in our work, but the parts are still very limited for that. What if we take this kind of thing? I also like to experiment just to see what we can do. Maybe if we do something like this. Now this is something I've used before for the Apollo program. This just goes to the top of the capsule because you can remove the shroud, but we'll be using this for a satellite now, if it will fit. I think we'll have to dump the battery on the bottom. Hey. Yes, fine, let's put it on the top there. And just put the shroud back on. I don't want it sticking out of there. I could even put the battery on the top like this. That doesn't look bad. I just want to move it. You can see it's clipping, not clipping, it's actually doing the opposite of clipping. It's leaving a little gap there. Much better. So if I just remove the shroud again, the electronic equipment will be in here. Obviously there's not these walls going to be clipping through it. We'll be welding parts in there and all sorts of things, theoretically anyway. Then I want a... Now we've got enough battery. Is there something we can use to end off that though? So is that all that's going in here? I think so. Put the shroud back on. That also theoretically protects the equipment, although of course that's not really going to help for radiation and all that. I also can't turn it off to separate the shroud there, but I'll just not do that. Now I guess we can just put the antenna right through that hole in the middle. Robotics parts, that's a challenge on its own. What could we do with that? It's not really necessary in this case. This is a very simple satellite. I have done before. This is the one case where I did experiment with these kinds of hinges and stuff during a custom career, where I put solar panels onto that and then it kind of folds open. Maybe I'll do that in this case too. Who knows? Right, so we'll just slap that there and of course move it in so it doesn't just hang there in the gap. And then I can deploy that during the final stage of the mission. I'll just say custom 1 is toggle. That's a mistake I made previously. I rewatched the episode, that's now a while ago, where I was clicking the key or pressing the key to extend the antennas, but I never did this step where I told it to toggle it. So that's what happened there. Now maybe I think we can even keep the fuel tank attached to the payload. Usually I prefer not to do that, but I do know in a career setting there is a good reason to do that, because sometimes you'll get a career, not a career, a contract. You can see my mind is still a bit frazzled, but anyway, you listen properly. You get a contract to move the satellite. So in that case, if you don't have the fuel tank attached, you have a problem. Now this is the smallest tank we still have, so it has to be this one, unless, no, but I do want this, because then I can attach these and unfold them. I was thinking we could of course just use monopropellant and then use one of the thruster ports to maneuver the craft. Now I'm also thinking I do want the Restock Plus mod as well, for the simple reason that it gives you more thruster block configurations, like 2-way and 3-way and so on, not just the 4-way there. But that's not important right now. Anyway, enough yapping, let's just put this together. In a way that will make the customer happy and ourselves. And then this is unnecessary, you know, we can just put the panels directly onto there. But it's an experiment, why not? So what will we do here? 2 times, I guess. North and south, yes. And then tea time. Now, I think this I will move in a little. Whoops, undo that. C, please. Just so it looks like it's actually built into the thing. Then we will take the panels. Now this is going to be, like I said, a very simple thing. It's not going to have rotors and all that sort of thing. It's simply going to unfold. Could just make it flat like that. Now of course using the snapping is very difficult here because it wants to go onto the edge there, so it's a guess. I think that'll work, and then it's raised like that. Then I just want to do the same on the bottom. Now getting this exact is a bit of a challenge, but we can see what it looks like if I close it. Angle limit, no, target angle. Now what on earth is happening here? Sometimes if you do the 2 times symmetry it doesn't quite register. It's just this one on the end here. There we go, much better. And then we close it like this. So obviously the panels must not clip into the tank. Now the target angle or limit I'm just going to put on 90 degrees. and then I want a shortcut for this. Click there, custom 2, or we can do custom 1. Let's do 1 as well. Now what is the right one here? Toggle the hinge, I guess. Let's do a quick test on the launch pad. Just to see, I want to know. It's a good practice for us to get into anyway. Just to be sure what we're doing here. Right, so there's the customer's payload. Press 1 and it deploys, and of course now it's pressing into the ground, but that's not intentional. It's just to see if it works. Right, it works, and it looks quite interesting. Revert back to the assembly and have more tea, please. Isn't that, I'm trying to make like a Werner von Kerman or Gene Kerman. Sometimes they'll go so anyway, right, so that's our payload right here. This will be Echo 1, and then I'm going to have a kind of double naming convention for this. That's the class of satellite, or the sort of, you know, the registry number. Then it's going to be the name of our customer. Now, what was it again? They don't show you that in the contract list. I have to go back to the mission control. Experimental engineering, I'll call it experimental sat, just so we know. Or just the full name, why not? And then after that we use a comrade name again. So let me consult my list. Right, comrades, it's going to be okay, now it's putting it smaller, but that's alright, it's still there. Comrade mates 989, is that right? Right, so there we go, comrade. This is your satellite. And the total weight of this is 1.6 tons, which is more than within our limit for the new launcher. And that's it. We don't need anything else on this thing. So I'm just going to open up the sub-assemblies and slap on the Paragon. And of course I have to limit the force percent, because we don't want this to change the orbit at all. And I have to redesign the fairing. Right, that'll work. And I do want it on, let's put it on 4 sides clamshell deploy. Usually you have to do quite a high force for that. It's interesting. I'll just leave it on white, I think. Right, so are we ready here? No twitch engines or anything like that to add to this booster, but we don't really need that. And this will go at the same time. Separate those, separate the engine stack on the bottom. I can also add a parachute to this, just because this is good practice for us. It adds another 200 kilos, but I think it's alright. So in this case I'm going to put 2 on, just make sure it's the right thing, and again high minimum pressure, and swap it around and just move it so we don't see it, but obviously it's open on the bottom so the parachutes can deploy there. Then this needs to go onto the same stage as that, and this thing all drops off as one piece on the bottom. The 2 reliant engines and the swivel in the middle is going to stay obviously, but the skirting is going to fall off. And these reliants are also downrated a little because they were a bit too powerful for this. Then we separate that, then we separate this. I might move that around during the flight. Then of course we fired the Terrier, which is now our Agena stage, and then finally the payload separates, but not the fairing on that thing. Right, save this, and of course we we can't do this from the... We can do this from the desert. We'll just have to make a small correction. So let's do that. Still my favorite. For now, anyway. More tea. Right, comrades, we're here. Does anyone know the YouTube channel Grand Illusions? Tim Rowett. Anyway, he does reviews of his massive toy collection, but anyway, one of the memes kind of associated with his channel is water from the Nile. Perhaps one of you will know that, but that's kind of the thing with me and tea. It's never ending. And coffee. Right, so we're going to launch, comrades. We'll talk through this, I think. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ignition. And there is our very first official launch of this new Paragon booster. I think I can turn the engines out just so that their secondary exhausts actually point to the side, but okay, that's not a major issue, just something to improve. Right now I just want a general low Kerbal orbit, and then we can make the requisite adjustments. Now I would be very happy one day when we get probe cores that allow me to do a prograde lock. That's how I prefer to do my orbits. Just get onto the prograde and lock it, and then let the flight computer handle the rest, in a manner of speaking. I have a strange roll here. Well, does not matter. Right, about 500-ish separate. There, it does jump around a little bit, but it's better than it was during my first test. So that's now separated, and from here on we will just use the one engine, and the rest will hopefully land safely there in the desert mountains. And just give me my information again. I'm just staying on the 90, so maybe we don't need to do a correction. We'll see. Okay, that is auto strutted. Yes, in this case I'm going to do the separation of the fairing. We're above 40 kilometers. Separation, it's maybe a little bit early, but we'll be fine. Just stay on the 90 for now. This will take us very nicely to low Kerbal sphere, not orbit anyway, but low Kerbal space. And I'll just let this thing burn through. So let's get right to the equator. And this one probably also needs a parachute, or 2 or 3, to be recovered. But anyway, separate, just ignite that, so we clear the fairing there, and that is the first launch of the Paragon first stage. This is now the Paragon second stage, with a Terrier with the minimal kind of base there, so it attaches directly into the tank. And I think we can even deploy the whole thing now. Press the number 1 key, we're in space. And that's how it goes. Very nice, I like this. Now, we just have to wait until we get closer to our apoapse. Eventually I'll put a probe core in the Agena stage, equivalent, it's not really called here the Agena, but the equivalent of that, just to recover this as well, or at least get rid of the space debris, but for now we're still in the early days. And let's get to orbit. I don't really care exactly what it looks like at the moment, because we have to wait for the time until we get to the periapse anyway, and then we'll raise it to the desired orbit, plus any inclination changes. Yes, so let me just have a look. What does it say? Oh no, you're kidding me. Stop right there. It's a retrograde orbit. No, you're joking. Oh dear, well, I think we'll just do a revert for this one. Ish! I must read the fine print before I actually initiate the launch. This was a simulation, comrades. I'm afraid I'm gonna have to go the soap opera route again. We'll just revert to launch. Eesh, it's not gonna be recoverable if I try and make a correction there. I have to go. Look, see, right, it's a retrograde orbit. Okay, now we can launch. This time I'll speed it up, comrades. I'll see you in orbit. Right, comrades, we're coming up on stage SEP. I think we'll separate this. It has more than enough fuel to still use it, but just so we get rid of the debris. Oh, come on. Really? I didn't put an engine on the upper stage? Or the I'm losing my touch. Let's revert again. Ish! What is happening to me? Yes, I'm afraid this week is going to be more of the same. Right, can I use a thud? No. That's crazy. Let's not do that. Actually though, I do like strange combinations, so let me just play around with this. No, that's a little too strange. I'll just use this again, but with the base there. Oh, come on. How could I be? Well, I guess this stuff does happen. So many rockets have crashed and blown up and all of that. Mistakes do happen. Separate that, separate that, separate the fairing. Probably will... Alright, do it before then. Do that. And then... should I even put the probe core on the upper stage now? Yes. Let's do that, so we get rid of it. I'll not put a parachute on because it'll burn up during re-entry anyway. So, yes, just a basic thing which we'll put into the fairing base, because obviously that's not really being used in terms of real estate. And then I'll just put 2 batteries, but again with hibernate in warp. And getting the clipping issues there again. But we don't need a shroud here. No, but we do, because the fairing will separate first. Right. Then just this back, and now this whole thing, because it's quite a thick fairing base there, so it just goes right into that. And then I want to auto start this. Okay, save it again. Overwrite. Ish, comrade mates 989. I apologize for my inept piloting. Your mission is turning out to actually be 3 missions in one, but anyway, all the better, I guess. So I will see you again. Also, wait, before we even do that, let's just go back to the desert launch site. The thing is, when we have to do retrograde orbits, I want to do it from the desert also, because if we did this from the main spaceport, this is role-playing again, then, now of course it's difficult to see anything, but then we have to cross this kind of grassland area, and that is generally going to be more populated. In this case, the stages will hopefully fall in this desert and mountains and so on. Anyway, well, see you in space again, comrades. Okay, now another issue. I went too shallow this time, so we're getting serious heating effects that would obviously damage the satellite in real life. But I am going to separate the upper stage or middle stage now effectively here, just so we don't have to worry about it. And now finally we'll have an engine again. Well, we'll blame all of this on rocket design. I'll take no personal responsibility whatsoever. It's just like the Atlas at the beginning. So many of them blew up and crashed. And eventually, of course, it did get ironed out. And so the Atlas vehicle became a very reliable one eventually. So we'll argue for the same thing here. Hey, it would be boring if everything just worked perfectly all the time, right? It's cooling down now, so I think, is it safe to deploy the panels? Yes. There we are. And we can also blame it on the fact that it's a retrograde orbit, and this is our very first one, so, well... Okay, now the question becomes, how far are we off? It should be 6 or 7 degrees. Yep, because the launch site in the desert is something like 6 degrees offset from the equator. Now, in this case, our periaps will be here, so I actually want us to burn radially a little. I can plan this. We'll do the final orbital insertion at that point. Just want to get relatively close to that. Almost. Whoop! Oh, come on. We've passed it. Burn. Well, we'll make the corrections once we get to this point here. Luckily, unlike real life, this only has to be close enough. Well, right, now we need to push the radial in to shift the orbit a little. And just a little higher. Now it doesn't matter exactly where the apoapse is, as long as it follows the shape. Right, that'll work. Finally, and it's a nice looking satellite. It was just quite a struggle to get to this point. But yes, in 5 minutes we will be launching this stage again, or firing the stage again, and it still has 1800 meters per second. So that's why I'm thinking this Paragon launch vehicle, once I can iron out all the problems, will be a very prominent thing for us for at least quite a few episodes, because we can do so much with it. Now, launching a 2 Kerbal vehicle is not going to be possible with this upper stage, obviously, so I'll have to slap on a different second stage, which will be an interesting mix between an Atlas and a Titan rocket, but we'll see. Again, it's not going for the realism or the perfect recreations. Right, and burn. And finally we're getting somewhere. Launching at 3 Gs, that's fine. And I'm just gonna burn off this last little bit. 0.1 meters per second. Is that good enough? Is it not good enough? I guess it's not good enough. Reasonable deviation. No, it's not good enough. Oh, obviously, I still have to make this correction. Yes, like I said, it's not my highest point. Well, Right, now it's again very easy to do this part as long as I don't have to revert. There we go. Now this is in 25 minutes, no problems here. And we do have power generation, so no need to hibernate. And actually it's much easier just to go to the map, click on the next maneuver and say warp to next maneuver. That's just a bit safer. Right, so that stage, the first stage was recovered, or the half stage with the two engines for 2.3k, and then the next one was destroyed, so I'll have to try and recover that, which is not what happened in real life, but again, as I said, that's not what I'm going for. This is a 3-second burn. Better to do this anyway at the apoapse or close to it. Make your inclination changes at lower speeds for better results. And there we are. Now we're getting somewhere. This will give us the money after 10-second stability. Right, finally we're somewhere, and a very nice view here. So at this point I just want to get this thing, now how shall I orientate this? For now, just like this, so the panels point to the sun there, but when it swings around the panels will be on this side anyway, so it's perfectly fine. Back to the space center, comrades. That well, there we are. Some minor mistakes with that mission, nothing we couldn't recover from. Right, contract complete. Successfully deployed for 90 million bucks, I pretend. And is there anyone interesting here? I know we still have to rescue the one. Maxbury, John Doe. No one jumps out. The problem with rescuing Kerbals is you never know what you get. Is it a pilot, an engineer, Simone? No, we'll not do that yet, but then again, let's just go back to the VAB and just begin working on our 2-crew capsule. So now I'm happy with this, except we can try and recover it. When it's empty, it should be light enough for a single parachute, but let's put 2 on. Somewhere right, it's difficult to see always, because I don't want it attaching to the stage separator there, decoupler. There is a word for that. Ish. Somehow that it looks a bit natural in a way. Just have to toy with this. Right, so it's going to be packed in there. It's custom made, so we'll argue that it will work. That is at this point, and then I just need to move this to its own stage, and I'll save this again. Override. So mates 989, comrade, if I'm still saying your name right, I have no idea, please guide me there, but this is an important mission that you helped us with, because now we've ironed out so many issues with the Paragon booster. Now, new please. In this case, I know we still have the pea and the pomegranate, but we'll go with the Gemini inspired one for now. Again, do I have to, or do I'm wondering here, what could I do with that one? It could work, it could work. You know, one of the problems, actually, let's just go to the research center. One of the things that I would have liked the developers to change is for them to put the the inflatable airlock on a much lower tier, let's say even the 3rd tier or something like that, because the inflatable airlock is really designed for the first spacewalk. So that's now what I'm thinking about, because obviously the Voskhod was the first spacewalk with the inflatable airlock, but we only get this when we're super advanced really in our tech tree. So the only other kind of rational spacewalk is with the Gemini, which was also used for that purpose, of course. So why not just use this for now? But yes, I would like to get the inflatable airlock earlier. Now, for the purposes of this, let me just have a think. I like to use the Oscars just for the top again. This will now not be a perfectly accurate recreation, but we know that the Gemini capsule has this kind of a nose area. Just rotate that so the lines are to the sides. Like that. And of course take the fuel out, so it's purely a structural element. Now this is going to be for, not for the docking yet. We can put the small docking clamp on there eventually and then do a docking test as well, but not for now. So all I want, and I don't even have the small decoupler and the small nose cone for aerodynamic protection here. So we'll have to go without those. Well, it's a small surface area, so the slowdown shouldn't be too much. Well, alright, let's just try to see what we can do here. The next thing would be the parachutes. I'll put them in here. Just like, you know, the real thing didn't have parachutes sticking out on the sides. Then I want this thing to be auto-strutted to the root part, or the grandparent part rather, so it doesn't snap off when the parachutes deploy. We're not going to worry about RCS controls to roll and pitch and all of that. We'll just use the inbuilt wheel authority because it's a bit cheaty in that sense, but again, I'm not going for the kind of total realism recreations. So, what's the next step? Heat shields. Technically, we don't need a heat shield for low Kerbal orbit because it can sustain 2.2 K temperature, which is enough, but still it's good practice. This is the only one that is not yet replaced by the Restock mod. You can see they have a nice heat shield for the smaller one, which is customizable in color, but this is an old school one. They want us to test this as well. That's why it's kind of bluish green there. Blue more, I guess. So this is a good practice for this as well. Anyway, we will use this for now. And just a test again. Now, unfortunately, this still uses the old kind of skirting. So I'll rather put it like this. And then, let's see, there is a custom service module provided for this craft by the developers, although, and you see it is meant for this because it has the gold plating or foil on the back, and so it really is for this, but of course the real Gemini used a much wider service module. Now this is not going to be the right one because otherwise I'd have to clip this into the craft, but this is purely for demonstration purposes. So the real one is much more like that. It keeps going wider, but for now we use this. It's perfectly fine again if you're not going for a recreation. Take the shroud off, and now we have to put fuel in here, and for this case I will use monopropellant. This is the only monoprop that we have, so in a way that's balanced. See, we have this bigger area, but I can't just put a tank offset there. What if I do it like this? That kind of works. It will be in symmetry, and I just need to move it down so it doesn't stick out through there. I have to say, that looks nice how their arms kind of connect through the divisions there, dividers. Right, so now that is going to be the upper stage, and then I will use 2 little thrusters on here, pretty much like the real thing, to the sides, and just offset a little so it looks like it's part of the structure. And then we'll use that and hope it's enough for the deorbit, but it should be. So this is not for going to the moon or anywhere. This is purely for orbital exercises and then coming back home. Then, next step. Is there anything we need on this craft? The snacks. I need to figure out the snacks. See, there's a rerun simulator here. I hope Simone hasn't died in orbit. Of course, this won't show us, but somewhere there must be a way that you can customize that. I've seen this on the mod homepage where they show you can change the parameters and all that. But I'm not going to add more snacks here. We don't need it. I will add some batteries though. We're not going to put solar panels on here yet. And in this case, I'll just make it double and 2 times symmetry, so they sit on this kind of shelf in a way. Right, that's it. Close it, and we're not going to ditch the shroud. So put that on the last stage. Right, so there's our craft. This is our payload now. No need for a specific antenna at the moment, although it would be easy to do that. So let's do this. This is not going to be a deployable one. Good grief, we'll just put it like that. And then move it a bit. There, so there's no need to deploy it. It's built in. Again, it's not necessary, but let's say we want to transmit some crew reports or something. Not that we need to, but for a contract or something perhaps. And then the next step is, so we have the power, we have everything I think that we need. Let's just have a look at the mass of this thing. No monoprop, that's the thing. Oh, but it doesn't have built-in monoprop anyway. So the mass is 3.4 tons for this 2-crew upper stage vehicle. Now, what do we need for putting this in orbit? So I can now use one of these tanks, and we'll see if the Paragon first stage will launch this thing. Now, swivel, I guess, is the best one. Maybe we can get away with 120. Now this will be in the upper atmosphere, hopefully. Maybe I can use one of this. Like I said, I do like to experiment. Now this is not what this kind of engine is made for. We don't have any other options for its appearance, but then what I do is I move it to the middle, or middle-ish. Right, so now finally Kerbal Engineer is useful. The torque 5.17 kilonewton meters. So in this case, take the snapping off and just move it until it's as low as possible. It's impossible to get it perfect, but 0.09 is the closest, and of course our reaction wheels can counter that. There we go, that's the only thing I need Kerbal Engineer for. Then, yes, that does look a little dubious, I know. Oh dear, well, maybe I can use an engine plate. We do have that now. That's actually better because we can use that for the fairing here. Oh, no! Move tool, please. And just like that. Now we know it's offset, but it's because the engine base is offset, so we need to cancel that mass out. 0.08, so it's even better now. And that is our upper stage for orbital insertion as well, or near orbital insertion. This gives us thrust to weight ratio at, let's say, 38 kilometers of 1.29. That's perfect for almost 2 kilometers of delta V. I think this is very good. Now we go back to our previously saved Paragon 1A lower stage. No, I think we'll need to merge because it has the parachutes now. I'm not going to make a new design classification for that. I think that was a bit superfluous. Don't save and find the one we just launched. Echo 1. Ah, it's at the top. Now, why are there two? I guess it's the more expensive one. Merge. Make sure to merge and not just replace it. Then just grab... yes, now I just need the tank here, not the fairing. And I need to make this much lower. Can I go even lower? Perfect. And there's our new craft. This is an Atlas Titan hybrid monstrosity, but it will hopefully work. Let's find out. Now, this will give us a thrust to weight at the sea level of 1.35. Now, in this case, I will boost the Reliant engines to maximum capacity, which is almost perfect. Then we still separate the half stage at the bottom. We separate that, fire the engine, separate that. Oh yes, and then I just want to make the little thrusters forward by throttle, so I don't have to hold any keys in. It's the old issue again. Might be better from the top. Eesh. That's such a good word, comrades. I encourage you to learn it. Ish. That's an expression we use in South Africa so much. The word itself doesn't mean anything. It's just like wow, or it's just to exclaim something. But you can use it for so many things. Like if something is frustrating you, just say ish. If you're happy about something, you can also say ish. It's a good surprise or something like that. It's very useful. Show the actuation toggles. This will only be for forward, obviously not aft, and 4 by throttle, not full action always, that's not necessary. We do have this more basic variant as well. Maybe I'll use that. That's of course the Restock mod. Sure, let's do that. Now, what shall we call this craft? We now have something quite advanced on our hands, or relatively anyway. So this will be a... I still have the suggested lists here, like obviously Excalibur, Hawk, Eagle, but I don't think that's necessarily for the rocket. That's for a mission. So this has to be a Paragon something. Well, that's not the rocket again. The capsule has to be another name. So for the capsule we used Gladius before. What's a good name now? Spectator. Just consulting my literature here. I have lots of names for missions, but not for a capsule. Revelation. Good grief. Let me think about this for a moment, comrades. Okay, comrades, I think we'll settle on the Harmony capsule. So instead of Gladius, this will be Harmony 1. Now, I don't really have good names for, it's emphasizing the fact again that there's two, like Gemini or Gemini, as it was also said. Obviously, Gemini is the way that it was said for the space project, but you know, Gemini is how you would more say it normally for star signs. But in any case, the point is that it's 2. So what else is 2? Pisces is 2 fishes, but let's stay away from that. I think harmony, because now there's 2 crew members, so we have to keep the harmony, the peace between them. So that also works. So harmony 1. Now for the booster itself, provided of course that it works, we now have to get a hybrid name for this. Now I'm not going to save the actual service pack for the craft, so we'll just grab this, and this is going to be the Paragon something. Maybe this can be a Paragon 2. But can we argue that? No, this is Paragon 2A. No, 1B. Yes, Paragon, whoops, 1B. Like the Saturn 1B. I know that should have been an I, but anyway. So Paragon, that's like the next iteration, because it still uses like 80% the same parts. It's just an extra upper stage that's different. So I mean, when you put the Centaur on an Atlas, you don't call the Atlas a different name. It's still the Atlas, but Atlas Centaur. Right, anyway, enough yapping about that. I think we are ready to do a test launch of the Harmony 1. Now, in this case, it's a launch for us, so we don't need to put a company name here. We can just put a comrade here. And the next comrade on the list is Comrade Flow. There we go. I like that. Nice and straightforward. Comrade Flow, you are going to be the patron saint of the Harmony 1 launch. Right, I want to save this, and I want to... Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to see the crew. Now, for this, we have done all of the... we've taken all of them onto a mission except Bob. So Bob has to take one of the seats. And we will take Chad. He hasn't been in space for a while. So that will be that for this mission. Let's go back to the desert. Let's hope this goes well. I should have done an auto strat as well, but this is purely like a test. We'll go into orbit, but we won't really stay there. Lock, and 3, 2, 1, ignition. And there we go, we are off. No, not much happiness is shown by the crew, unfortunately. Oh well. Now in this case it's so easy. I just tilt over to about the 80-degree mark, wait for the prograde to catch up, and then just lock. So easy. It's a dream. The pilot can actually fly. Right. Now they're happier because there's no abort system on this craft, so it was quite obvious why they were upset. Yes, that's something I should be doing, but of course our abort system is the revert button, and that is a very powerful abort system. I'm gonna separate now just because that was a little overpowered. Now we lose a bit of speed, but we need to tilt more. And yes, I'll see you in space, comrades. Ah, I see now what went wrong. I should have taken the other craft. This one doesn't have the parachutes on it, even though it was more expensive. It was because of the payload testing. Anyway, that's irrelevant. We'll just lose this stage now. So far so good though. Comrades, we're on our way. This is such a capable rocket. I think we have a winner here. We still have a kilometer of delta V left, so we could easily, once we finish the orbital insertion, go on a flyby of the moon. So it's a little overpowered, but it's fine. It's obviously not always going to be a perfect launch. So, in that case, I just want us to get this stage a little bit, to add a bit more speed here, because our little engines on the service module is not going to be that strong. So in that case, I might actually try and put a probe core onto this upper stage anyway, eventually, to try and get it to go back, because now ideally this should go all the way into orbit with us, not just part of the way. But I'm gonna dump it now. Obviously make sure your periaps is under 20 kilometers, otherwise it will stay infinitely in orbit. That's what I read anyway. Right, 7, that's fine. Ditch the thing. Full speed onto the orbital maneuvering engines, or orbital insertion engines. Now they will be very weak, but it should be fine to complete the burn. We'll also get an idea of how much fuel we need really. Lights on. That's why we want the other thing to put us completely into orbit. This is just for maneuvering and re-entry, but it's doing fine for this as well. Lock to prograde. 80 by 80 we'll try. It's so much easier, I just use the normal throttle. And boom! Perfect! Perfect circular orbit. Well, within a kilometer, I always count that then. So within 500 meters. So yes, our best orbit yet, comrades, and we still have most of the monoprop, so this is a really great mission so far. So Comrade Flo, it's your lucky day. I didn't mess this one up too, but anyway. So now these two comrades will stay here in orbit for now. I think this is where I'll wrap up, comrades. We'll leave them here to do orbital practice and so on, but obviously not too long. So the Harmony 1 flow debris was recovered. That's another $2.5 million bucks roleplay, for roleplay purposes, but 2,300 funds back. And the upper stage was destroyed at 5,000, so I really need to put the parachutes back onto that thing. But we'll do this next time, comrades. There's the main space center. Anyway, I'll see you then. I'll leave them here on this cliffhanger. Have a fantastic day, comrades, and I hope you had a really great weekend.